Alright, so we are going to talk about certain homeopathic remedies for the current situation. We can see the heat wave which is happening outside. So we are going to talk about homeopathic remedies for this kind of heat in summer. So we'll talk about summer remedies in homeopathy, especially some of the not so very common ones. So the first commonest remedy that you would think about in this weather, in summer, will always be bryonia. You would know bryonia anyways. You know the typical aggravation of dry, hot weather of bryonia. You would know that along with the weather, you would want to look at the dryness of mouth, the thirst. You know bryonia is called as dryonia, which means that bryonia is not only its entire mucous membrane is dry, but even emotionally they are dry. They are people who can't do anything else other than work and business. So that's a very important phenomenon of bryonia. So this is a very important typical remedy that you already know about. With the slightest motion aggravates, with the throbbing, with the better by pressure, with the desire for cold drinks. Doesn't want to be disturbed, doesn't want to converse, talking aggravates. A typical ill-humored, bad-tempered bryonia. And especially in this hot weather, when you go out and you drink a lot of cold water, you know typically you would get a headache. If you're a bryonia, you would get a fever, which is a little slow, insidious kind of fever. You know it would be bryonia. But a very interesting remedy in this hot summer and this weather is the remedy Bellis perennis. Read about it by Tyler. Tyler has written some very interesting things about Bellis perennis. So it kind of compares with bryonia. Bellis compares with bryonia in cases of this hot weather. Suddenly you drink something very ice cold and then you develop a coryza or headache or fever or malaise. The bigger remedy is Bellis perennis. Read about it from Tyler and also probably the fifth line from Boric. But the main remedy which I am using, especially in this weather, with the cough, with the coryza, is the remedy bromine. It is such an underrated remedy in homeopathy, one of the lesser known acute remedies that we use. And some of the people who are watching the courses where I teach also know that we have treated many cases of COVID, typically cases of COVID pneumonia, typically cases of post-COVID coughs, typically cases where lung fibrosis is happening with bromium very beautifully. What is the indication of bromium? Again, being overheated. So in this heat wave, so much of overheating, and you suddenly come to an air-conditioned room like this, or it's too much cold room and you suddenly go into an overheated room. But especially from overheated room, you come to a little colder atmosphere. You would want to think about bromium. Bromium will gradually develop a slight dry cough, and this dry cough later on, the symptom of dry cough of bromium would often be aggravated by inspiration. So slightest inspiration and they feel a little cold inside. Here you can compare Corallium rubrum also. So with this dry kind of cough and this breathlessness would increase as soon as they breathe. So it will be something like this is very typical for bromium. Bromium, along with being overheated, which is a very important phenomenon of bromium, you would also want to know that it's a very important remedy for throat. In fact, all the halogens, and you can read about this from my favorite book, Farrington's Clinical Materia Medica, you'll see all halogens have an important action on throat, which means remedies iodum, which is an important for goiter, the remedy like bromium, which also is very important for goiter also and also for throat related complaints, muriaticums, all mures, and also spongia, because you should know that spongia also has a little bit of iodine in it and has an action on throat, and that's why on the goiter. So that's a very interesting set of remedies you want to keep in your mind for Bromium also very anxious, very, very anxious, very restless. Typical bromium in that way. Let's come to the next set of remedies, and we'll try to go over some interesting kind of summer remedies and some remedies that you would want to know in your practice. I'm going to give you just some important clinical ideas. There are so many remedies. If you open summer aggravation in a bigger repertory, like complete repertory, you'll see hundreds of remedies. Also, because we spoke about bryonia, if you read dyspepsia, which means acidity in summer, due to this weather, you develop acidity, bryonia is a very important remedy. So it's one of the lesser known remedies, but very important remedies for this condition. Okay, let's try to look at some more clinical indications here when we talk about summer remedies. What to do in summer? Someone develops skin problems. You want to know what are the skin problems. Are they papules? Are they macules? Are they vesicular eruptions? Because depending on the remedy, you would see that the pathogenesis, the pathophysiology of every remedy is very different. So if you are seeing in summer, suddenly you are seeing, let's say, prickly heat on upper half of the body, what remedy do you think? So the remedy is Syzygium jumbolinum, which is interestingly well known typically for diabetes. In India, we use this remedy very often for diabetes, but prickly heat on upper half of the body, think about Syzygium jumbolinum. Again, read Boric, you will see this line written in italics. Very interesting. Another very important remedy for this summer situation is also sarsaparilla. The skin eruption mainly start in summer. Think about sarsaparilla also. Whenever you look at summer and you think about skin problems, you will always think about sulfur. You will always think about sulfiode. But sulfiode more in a little chronic and more thickened eruptions. One of the main remedies, like a overall big remedy for me in summer, with slight eruptions coming up, especially reddish in color. Biggest remedy, and the remedy I use very often, is the bowel nozzle. That is Morgan Pure. You want to give this in 30 potency, 2 times a day for 2 days. What is the indication? Lot of redness, symptoms which look like sulfur. Morgan Pure also feels very forsaken. There is a rubric, delusion, not loved, and also many cravings of sweet, etc., which look like sulfur. Morgan Pure is also a very, very important remedy in children's cases of dry eczema and children's cases of asthma. So this is a very important remedy you will want to keep in your mind. Some of it I've spoken about in my book Materia Medica of Nosodes and Sulfurs. When we talk about skin, you also want to talk about another very important remedy, and especially in acne. Acne in summer, think about Bovista. So many women who develop a lot of skin related issues after using all these ointments, going to different beauty parlors, think about Bovista. Also very important remedy, ailments from so many ointments, so many other chemicals, think about Bovista. Some more interesting clinical tips which I want to tell you about. Sudden hepatitis, jaundice, typically in summer. Many remedies here, many different remedies. But one of the very important remedy, especially in this kind of conditions, is the remedy Chionanthus. Chionanthus also has a symptom where whenever there is jaundice, there is menses which stop. So you can see in boric written, menses arrested during jaundice. That's also a very important clinical kind of indication for cheonanthus. Cheonanthus you will often see in almost every case of cheonanthus a chronic sick headache. You will see this kind of headache with cheonanthus. So I think this is just a little beginning, just a little introductory few remedies that you want to keep in your mind in summer. Many more remedies that you want to keep in your mind. The typical gelsemium, the dullness, the drowsiness of gelsemium, but very thirstless. Always connected with vertigo and dizziness. You think about gelsemium. I think my handwriting is very bad, so don't try to understand the spellings. But one of the lesser known remedies with this is the acid. And which acid is one of the best for summer is picric acid, the great picric acid. So if you are a student, or if you know, if your patient is a student or someone who works too much on the computers, on the mobile phones, using too much of your mind, and then with that too much of summer, too much of heat, and then developing like a mental draining, headaches, dullness, mind not working so well, you would want to look at this remedy, picric acid, which we normally don't think about so easily. So, this is what it is. So some thoughts, these are just some thoughts that we thought about for summer remedies that you want to keep in your mind. Do write to me what you think, and you have my email ID below, gauranghg@gmail.com, and if you wish to study with us, you can write to us and join our courses. Thank you.